Hi and welcome. It is Debs here, all on my own, doing our show this week because Beck is away enjoying herself and enjoying the lovely, lovely sunshine that we're having on her holidays. So if you do get to watch this, Beck, I hope you're having an absolutely fabulous, fabulous time. But you might have to bear with me a little bit because I'm all on my own, but I do have an absolutely fabulous show for you today. We have a great question and a great topic. But as usual, before we dive into that, I want to tell you a little bit about what we've got going on, just in case you'd like to join in. So right now, we are in the middle of summer school. We started relationship school in April at the beginning of this year, and we had our first run at it, and it was absolutely great. We got some brilliant feedback. We had some amazing calls, and we've just been adding to that. We've just been putting more and more stuff in there. We've had some great interviews with people, and right now you can jump in so that you can join the next lot of summer relationship school when it goes live again in September. But at the moment we are in summer school, and you can join in. We have a one more call left in August for summer school, and there's some amazing stuff to get your teeth into straight away if you jump in there now. So if you'd like to join us for summer school and then relationship school again live in September, we would absolutely love to have you with us. And I will put a link below this video, wherever it is you're watching it. There will be a link below it so that you can go and find out more about that on our website. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to message us or get in touch because we love to hear from you. So we would just love to have you along for summer school. Right, so let's dive in this week with living and learning. Well, it's been a fascinating week as always in our household. So I had my daughter who lives in London, she came down to visit for a week. She went back on Sunday, so she was here for most of last week. And I was out of the office a little bit. Beck covered a lot of stuff so that I could spend some time with my daughter, because obviously with lockdown and everything that had gone on, I haven't seen her this year at all. The last time we saw her was at Christmas time, so that was the latter end of last year. So it was really, really nice to have her here. And I'm sure, I certainly hope you're going out and about and meeting up with your friends and your family a little bit with the lockdown rules being eased. But it was so beautiful to be able to hang out together again as a family, be able to see each other, be together, and for her to see her little nephew again. And what I saw in that was how it was shown to me again how human beings have their own separate realities, because her experience of lockdown and what had happened for her, what had been going on for her, was quite a different experience to the one that I had had. And it's very easy to put that down to, she lives in London, I live in a sleepy village in North Devon. It's really easy to put our different experiences down to our circumstances, what's going on, where we live, and all those kinds of things. But what I saw again during our conversations, during the time that we spent together, what was really obvious to me was that our realities are shaped by the thinking that we're having moment to moment. And to have respect for each other, that every single human being has their own experience of life, their own individual personal experience of life. And remembering that makes relating and being around and being with other people so much easier. And my family are a beautiful example of that for me, because what I see again and again is that for the longest time, all I wanted was a happy family, for us to hang out and to have fun together. And we struggled with that. And something shifted hugely for me when I began to understand that different people see the world differently. So if the whole concept of separate realities is a new one for you, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And even if it isn't new, even if it's something you've heard a million times before, just stopping for a minute and remembering that is so helpful and so useful, because I used to believe that what other people did, they were doing that, they were seeing the world and thinking about the world in the same way as I was, and then they were doing something that made no sense to me. And since I have realized that each human being experiences the world via their thinking that they are having in that moment, it makes sense to me. I realize why people don't always do things that I would do. They don't always behave in the way that I would behave. They don't always behave in a way that makes sense to me. But knowing that in any given moment they're doing what makes sense to them, and if I don't believe my thinking when it says to me they should be doing something different, relationships are so much easier, so much simpler, so easy to be in. So yeah, definitely I was reminded of separate realities and reminded that it is so beautiful to be with people when we realize that they're experiencing their own reality and I'm experiencing mine. So hopefully there was something in that that was helpful for you too. And if you're ever around somebody who is seeing something differently to you, it pays to remember that we each have our own individual experience of life moment to moment. So that was our my living and learning for this week. So I have to hold my hands up here and confess that we have a board up behind me to remind me what it is we're talking about, to remind me what our question is this week, and to remind me of the topic that we're discussing. And Beck usually writes on that board. And she, obviously, with her not being here this week, I had to write the board out. And I cannot remember which way around, whether the question comes first or the topic comes first. So if you do know and I've got it the wrong way around, there's an apology. There's my reality going on. So I have written the question first. So this was our question this week. What is it that causes us to worry so much? What a great question. I know very often when we come to a spiritual understanding, when we get into this conversation and begin to understand how reality is created and how we have an experience moment to moment. And if this is new to you, if this is one of the first of our videos that you've ever watched and you're unsure about that, we do have a start here video that explains to you, how experience is created for every human being moment to moment. But if that is, when we first hear that, when we begin to understand, when we begin to see that human beings, we live in the feeling of our thinking, we experience the thinking that we have moment to moment. And when we begin to see that, and then we also begin to see that we don't choose what we think and we don't have that much control over what we think either, it's kind of like, why is the system set up in this way? Why is it that we worry so much? Why wouldn't whoever was behind this system, why wouldn't they have set it up in such a way that we don't have to worry? What is it about, why do we do that? What is it that causes us to worry? And what I have seen in the time that I have been in this conversation is that when I have thoughts, when thoughts go through my head and I act on the thinking that I'm having in that moment, if I believe that thinking to be true, that will cause me to behave in a certain way. And when I believe the thought that something is worth worrying about, then it will make sense to me to worry. And it is only through an understanding of life, an understanding that there is something way more powerful than this human being that's having this experience behind all of this. And it is truly, truly, truly not my job to worry about anything, really. It's just not my job to worry. And as I begin to see that, that helps me not to worry. But the question, what is the cause of human beings worrying? What is it that causes us to worry? It is the fact that we are thinking creatures. We have thoughts that pass through our mind that look real and true. Take this for an example. I'm sat here now talking to you in this way, and I had the thought passed through my mind as I started answering the question. The thought passed through my mind, oh, you're not making any sense. I don't know what you're thinking on this video. You're sounding stupid. Why don't you just stop? And for a minute, I was really hooked into that thought. I really thought, yeah, just stop this recording. Hopefully nobody's watching. Hopefully nobody's seen this up till now, and I can just get away with not doing this. And that, it looked real to me in that moment. But what I know about how life works, what I know about how this works, is that just because I had that thought just because it's in my mind, it doesn't mean that that thought is what I actually think. That the deeper person, who is really beyond the person, beyond the personality, beyond anything, something deeper in me, that thought isn't mine. And I don't have to be hooked into it, and I don't have to believe it, and I don't have to act on that thought. And it was actually quite funny as that thought came into my head. I thought, oh yeah, I could listen to that if I want to, or I don't have to. And for me personally, what I have really seen recently around worrying is that it might occur to me that someone that I love is in trouble in some way, certainly with everything that's been going on around the coronavirus, with everything that's happened in the world, all the changes. There's a lot of conversations that I could easily be a part of that is, about how difficult this is, how much it's affected different people, what effect it's had on people's income, people's mental health, all sorts of things. There's millions of conversations going on everywhere about what is going on in the world. And it can really look that to solve some of these problems, to help people with their mental health, or perhaps a financial crisis that they found themselves in, to help people, it would make sense to worry about it, to come up with some kind of solution. And worry to me is when we overthink, when we go round and round and round in our mind, thinking over something, looking for a solution, and believing that the solution is on our shoulders, it's down to us. And what I have noticed, what I've really come to see, is that is not how this system works. It's not how life is set up. And when I'm aware of people who are struggling for various reasons, through the crisis that's going on, and through other reasons, I'm aware of people who are struggling. But what I know is that the answers are not down to me racking my brains. They're not down to me tensing my shoulders and giving myself a headache trying to come up with something. There is a power behind life that, in the same way that we just have thoughts, that thought, you don't have to do this, you don't have to be on this show in this moment, you could turn this off. The same place that thought came from, that just popped into my head with me doing nothing. Equally, amazing answers to all sorts of problems pop into people's heads in the exact same way that thought came in. We do not have to spend hours worrying about it, ruminating, going over and over in our mind. Answers occur to us through the power behind life. And so for me, what I've seen more and more and more, no matter what is going on in the world, and however much it seems we are in the depths of a crisis, it seems to me that if I ask questions and just allow those questions to sit and go about my life, go to sleep if it's at night, eat my meals if it's lunchtime, look after my house if that's what's for me to do in front of me. Answers to any question I can ever possibly need the answer to pop into my mind. And when they pop into my mind in that way, they're perfectly doable too. The answers, whatever it is, the answer that pops into my head, I can act on it. I can do it. In the same way, when I have the thought, you don't have to be on this show in this moment. And it was absolutely, I could have leaned over and turned this off. It was doable. When something occurs in my mind, it is doable for me because it's come from the inside. It's come in a way that I can act on it. And the exact same thing happens when an answer occurs to me to any problem. And even if it is only the first step towards solving that problem, even if it is only give someone a call, give someone a hug. Now we may be allowed to do that, family members. Whatever it is that comes to me, whatever occurs to me in that moment, when it occurs to me in that way, it is doable. So human beings worry, and human beings, what causes us to worry is a misunderstanding of this amazing system that we are a part of, a misunderstanding of thought, a misunderstanding of the role that thought plays in our experience and what we get to do with it when we have a thought. And as we begin to understand that, as we begin to see that, something else starts to make sense. You know, when we're in the midst of a big worry, when we're really worrying about something, what is going on is it does not make sense to us not to worry. And what I've really, really seen is the more that I see this system in action, the more that I see answers pop into my head, the more that I see that life is living out through me, and I can just be in the flow of that in any given moment. And if I need an answer to a problem, if I need something, life will give me that. It will pop into my mind the exact moment that I need it to be there. Not a second before and not a second late. My judgment might say it hasn't come at the right time, and my judgment might argue with that. But the more that I see this system in action, the more that I see life doing what life does, the more that I realize that this system it's mind-blowingly, amazingly, perfectly fantastic. And if I understand thought, it makes less and less and less sense for me to worry. So the short answer to what causes us to worry is a misunderstanding of thought. And how do we stop worrying? We look to understand. We get out of the details of what we're thinking and look to understand what thought is, what experience is, and who we actually are, what part we play in that, what's going on for us. So I hope there was something helpful in that. And obviously, as always, if that has brought something up for you, if you've got any questions, please feel free to comment anywhere, wherever you're watching this, comment, and we will see those comments and we will get back to you. So our topic for this week is desperation versus inspiration. So I wanted to share with you what I have seen over this last week, really, in various different clients that I've been working with, you know, for various reasons, in various different programs we're doing, conversations I've had, and clients I've been working with, where I have seen people get into that space of desperation, and then when I have seen people in that place of inspiration, and what characteristics are in both of those, and what goes on for us, and hopefully sharing something helpful for you around those two places. So I'm sure you're aware that life does life. Life is always busy lifing. There is always something going on. The sun coming up, the sun going down, the world turning round, human beings up to all sorts of things. And over the weekend, my son has decided that he wants to buy a house. He's 22 now, and he's got a fairly good job, and he's fairly settled, and he's decided that it's a really, really good idea to buy a house. And I'm all for it. I think that's a great idea. And obviously, if he is, to me, it looks like he's growing up. It looks like that's a great way forward. I think that's a good thing for him to do, and I'm more than happy to support him and help him in that. So as I said, my daughter, his sister, was visiting from London, and his other sister, who also lives locally. We were all going to get together and have a roast dinner on Sunday. So I was busy cooking all morning, and everyone started to arrive around lunchtime so that we could all have lunch together. And my son suddenly decided that he needed to work out what his wages were and how much he would be able to have on a mortgage. And we were about to sit down at the table, and he just went into this space of, I have to do this now, I have to do this now, I have to do this now. And it was totally fine. It was, that was perfectly okay. He did go into the room, he took a pad and a paper, and he started making notes and started writing things. But it was really interesting to me to watch him do that, and to just observe his headspace and to observe what was going on for him in that moment, that it looked more important to him to do what obviously he was having thinking about buying his house, he was having thinking about a mortgage, he was having thinking about it, and it made perfect sense to him in that moment to leave everything that he was doing and get on with what his thinking was telling him he had to do in that moment. And I have noticed for myself over time, the more desperate I feel in those moments, the more, that thinking that we can have from that space, that this has to be now, this absolutely has to be now, you have to do, I don't care what's going on, I have to do this now, whatever it is, whether it is have an answer that hasn't appeared for us, or to get something on paper that makes, whatever it is, when we're in that desperate space of this has to happen now, then the more desperate, for me, the more desperate that feeling is in that moment, what I see and understand now is that I don't have to listen to that thinking. I don't have to be fooled by that desperate feeling, by that feeling of, if you don't do this now, and there isn't even an end to that sentence. It's like my thinking threatens me without even a threat. It's like, if you don't do this now, and I couldn't even put onto words what it is comes into my head, but I'm sure we've all had those moments of thinking, this has to happen now. I have to know now. I have to do this now. And that feeling of desperation for me is absolutely an indicator that maybe now isn't the right moment. Maybe now it isn't a good idea. It is one of those moments to take a breath and just walk away for a moment. And interestingly, with my son, he made a list, and then he ate his dinner afterwards, and it was a little bit cold, but there were no major consequences, and it was perfectly okay that he did what he did in that moment. And in actual fact, what actually happened was, later on, someone else, another family member, got into a little bit of a desperate state of mind and was desperate to do something. And my son witnessed that, and he saw for himself, oh, that was what was going on for me earlier. And he was actually able to be kind and compassionate about this other person who was in a similar frame of mind that he'd been in earlier. So I think we can learn from our own stuff. We can learn from our own states of mind, you know, what it is we do. But it was fascinating to watch. It was fascinating to see. And I think we get those gifts. We watch other people, you know, we are gifted other people doing all the things that we do. So we can, it mirrors it back to us, what is going on. And that's exactly what happened with my son. And then he was like, yeah, I actually didn't need to do that in that moment. And I could have done it from a clearer headspace later on in the afternoon or another day. There was another moment when I could have done it. And what I see with inspiration is it comes with somewhat of a different feeling, and it comes at somehow a way more appropriate moment. It comes in a moment when it is doable in a very, very different way. We ended up having a conversation about, there is so much going on in our office at the moment between, like, Beck and I are having some absolutely beautiful conversations, and she's gone away on holiday now, as you know. She's not here this week, and I'm not in a frame of mind that all this glorious stuff that is coming through, it doesn't matter that it's not in this moment, because it is still inspiring. It is still going to happen, and we're still taking steps towards it. But Beck can live her life around it. She can be inspired to go off on her holiday in those moments. And I've watched Lou. Lou is Beck's sister. She is my other niece, if you don't know, and she works with us in our business too. And I have watched her. She is absolutely on fire at the moment, and yet she's had a friend down visiting her this week, and she's gone to the beach and she's gone out to lunch. Inspiration fits. Inspiration is, we're on fire in a it's very, very different to that feeling of desperation. I have to know and I must do this. Inspiration is like a wave when we have our bodyboard or our surfboard, and we catch a wave and we are just carried on it, and it is just a beautiful feeling. Whereas desperation hurts my shoulders. Desperation gives me a headache and hurts my mind. Desperation is more like the worry that we were talking about earlier. And inspiration is that wave. It is when we're on our surfboard and we are up riding that wave, and we're doing what makes total sense in that moment from a light and beautiful feeling. And it can be tinged with a little bit of fear. We're having such a beautiful summer. I've actually been in the sea a lot, and those waves, you know, they have power. They are amazing. They can be scary, but it is a very, very, very different feeling from that feeling of, I have to know now, and if I don't know now, something bad is going to happen. Whereas inspiration is, take the next step. Let's go on this journey together. Let's ride this wave. Let's shine in life. Let's do something beautiful. It's inspired. It's just gorgeous. So I hope there's been something that's made some sense in that for you. And if you've enjoyed the show today, if you've enjoyed this conversation and you want to get into it more deeply with Beck and I, at the beginning of the show today, I talked about relationship school and summer school, and that is all about, we talk in depth about the relationship you have with yourself. We talk about how to live an inspired life in there. So come along and join us there. And if you want to do something personally, one-to-one with us, we do that too. We have mentoring packages, and we have ways to work with us. And as I was telling you, with sort of the inspiration that's coming through us at this moment, there'll be more ways to work with us too. So do look out for that. Do check out our website. Do get in touch. You know, if there's something coming to you and you want to have a conversation, do reach out. We always, always absolutely love to hear from you. So Unfortunately, that brings the show to an end this week, but Beck will be back next week, and our question next week is, should I leave my relationship? And our topic is living an inspired life. So we'll be digging a little bit more deeply into what we've been talking about today. So I'm really, really looking forward to you being there for that. And we are all over the place. You know, I will be here for the rest of this week. Beck will be back at the weekend, and we'll be around next week. So look out for us in our Facebook group, Dare to Be You, on our YouTube channel, on LinkedIn. We are all over the place, and you can sign up for our newsletter, and we send out daily inspirations. You can go to our website and sign up for that too. So hopefully we will catch up with you soon, and we will see you somewhere. So take care and have an amazing week. Bye for now.